So, the 2026 NBA trade deadline has come and gone. And on the surface, it seemed kind of quiet. But here's the thing. The biggest story wasn't about the moves that happened. It was all about the ones that didn't. And that silence? Well, that silence is setting the stage for some serious drama. Let's just start with this quote, because it perfectly, and I mean perfectly, captures the NBA we're living in right now. The whole idea of a player being untouchable, staying with one team for their entire career, those days are fading fast. And that idea really sets the stage for everything we're about to get into. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're gonna start with the biggest story that didn't happen out in Milwaukee. Then we'll get into the blockbuster trades that actually went down. From there, and this is important, we'll look at the real-world impact this has on the players themselves. And finally, we'll look ahead to a summer that promises to be anything but quiet. Right, so the entire league, and I mean everyone, was basically holding their breath, just watching Milwaukee. There was this tense, high-stakes standoff unfolding around their biggest star, and whatever happened was going to send ripples across the entire NBA. And that star, of course, is Giannis Antetokounmpo. The question on everyone's mind was simple. Is he going to stay or is he going to go? He's been really cagey about his long-term future, and that put the Bucks in an incredibly tough spot with the face of their franchise. Now, if you want to know what this whole conflict is really about, look no further than this number right here. $270 million. That's the monster 4-year extension Giannis can sign this fall. And for a player in his 30s, that is life-changing security. And this just lays it out so perfectly, right? The choice is simple, but the consequences are absolutely monumental. If Giannis even hints he's going to sign that paper, this whole conversation is over. They build him a statue. But if he doesn't, he becomes an expiring contract, the Bucks lose all their leverage, and they pretty much have to trade him. There's no other way. Like one analyst said, it's elementary. So what did the Bucks do? Well, with no clear answer from Giannis, they just decided to wait. They're kicking the can down the road. But let's be clear, this standoff isn't over. It's just been postponed. And until he signs, that huge cloud of uncertainty is going to be hanging over that entire franchise. All right, so let's switch gears and talk about the moves that did happen. Because even without a Giannis blockbuster, man, there were some major trades that went down that absolutely shook up the league's landscape. You could argue the Cavaliers made the biggest splash of all. They went out and got James Harden, a top 10 scorer ever, to pair with Donovan Mitchell. That is just a powerhouse offensive duo, and it tells you everything you need to know. Cleveland is all in on winning right now. Now, on the other side of that deal, the Clippers signaled a huge shift in their strategy. They got younger by bringing in two-time All-Star Darius Garland, and this is key, they restocked all their draft picks. This gives them the flexibility and the future that they've been missing for years. Another future Hall of Famer was on the move, too. Anthony Davis is headed to Washington. Just picture it, a new pick-and-roll partnership with Trae Young. Is it going to lead to a ton of wins? Who knows? But it is absolutely going to be entertaining to watch. And finally, after months of speculation, the Warriors moved on from Jonathan Kuminga. And coming back to the Bay Area is Kristaps Porziņģis. But a lot of analysts are kind of scratching their heads on this one. With his injury history, is he really the piece that Steph Curry needs to make one last run at a title? We'll see. Okay, so behind all these strategic moves, these assets, these draft picks, we gotta remember, these are real people with real lives. So let's just take a moment and look at the side of the deadline that we don't always get to see. This quote, it's from someone inside the league, and it is powerful. It really speaks to the intense stress, the misery that these constant trade rumors cause. It's not just a game. For the people inside that locker room, that uncertainty, it can be absolutely crushing. And it's so much more than just changing jerseys. I mean, can you imagine the anxiety? You're having these awkward encounters with a coach who might have just tried to trade you. You're practicing with teammates you might not see again in a few hours. And then, in a single moment, you have to completely uproot your entire life, your family's life. Nothing highlights the human cost more than this. I mean, just think about that for a second. Ivica Zubac experienced one of the biggest, most joyous moments of his life, the birth of his child. And just 48 hours later, his entire professional world is just turned upside down. It is a brutal reminder of the reality of this business. So what does all this mean for the future? Well, this quiet deadline, it wasn't an ending, not at all. It was really just setting the table for an absolutely chaotic offseason. Yeah, I heard one analyst describe the league as moving from a boil to a simmer, and I think that's perfect. All that tension, all that pressure, all the unfinished business, it's all still there, just boiling right under the surface, waiting for the heat to get turned back up this summer. And trust me, these next few months are going to be critical. Teams that went all in, like the Cavs, are now on the clock to win. And if they have an early playoff exit, you can bet they'll be forced to rethink everything. And all the while, the Giannis saga and a potential Ja Morant trade are just going to be looming over it all. So here's the bottom line. The 2026 trade deadline will not be remembered for the moves that happened. Nope. It's going to be remembered for the explosive ones it set up. All the dominoes have been arranged, and now they're just ready to fall. And that's really what you should take away from this. The chess pieces are now in place. A dozen teams are facing these huge, franchise-altering decisions. And the only question left is, who blinks first this summer?